These days, Battle Royale games are all the hype. From Fortnite to PUBG to Call of Duty Warzone, gamers have plenty of options of games to try if they want to be the last man standing. In fact, there are so many options that it might be hard to know which ones to try out. So I narrowed down the field by playing 15 different free Battle Royale games. Which games are fun and beginner-friendly, which should be completely avoided, and which should we come back to after they've been developed further. Well, I'll show you my personal findings and hope they help you make some gaming decisions. All the games I chose to look at today are available on Steam for extra convenience for PC players like myself, and some of these are still in the early stages of development, so we'll try to keep that in mind as we assess their quality, since they may be improved in the future. I picked this list of games mostly just by searching Battle Royale on Steam and choosing the first free ones I saw. So while we do have famous games here like Apex Legends, we also have some more obscure ones you've surely never heard of before. So it'll be interesting. Let's start with some negatives. For an unfortunate start, 3 of these games didn't work for me. The Lost Island had no other players, so I couldn't join a game. Not My Car sounded really interesting, with cars fighting instead of people, but it consistently said network error and wouldn't start. Islands of Nyne would let me do the shooting range training, but no longer seemed supported by the developer, as it said no connection to matchmaking. So unless you see any new updates for these games, probably stay away from them for now. Another one to avoid is Infestation Battle Royale. Again, there were no other players queuing up for the actual Battle Royale, so that wasn't going to work. And there were very few players in the zombie survival modes as well, accompanied by very slow and unclear gameplay. But hey, at least they had sparkly pants. That's definitely a major problem with a lot of these games, and something that unfortunately isn't the developer's fault. No, not the pants, the small fan base. Not having enough players online means that either no one can play even if they want to, or that the experience will not be as good as if it was a full match. Z1 Battle Royale is a good example. They say that each round can have up to 150 players, but I never joined a match with more than 10. Which is too bad, because I think this game has potential in some areas. I mean, just look at the loading screens. Greasy Joe's, what a funny name. Oh, what is that? But in all seriousness, there was a crafting element in Z1 that wasn't in most other Battle Royales I tried. Something that could have been really interesting if each match of like 7 people didn't end super fast because one person would just camp the high ground and kill us right away. The guns were also pretty unusable to me because they only seemed to have a teeny tiny dot as your crosshair, which obviously made it very hard to aim accurately. So with some unclear and tricky controls and a very small and ruthless set of players, this felt very unfriendly to newcomers like myself. Which unfortunately means that it likely won't get better without a massive overhaul to bring in new players first. I think the funnest part for me was just punching a car in the lobby. So some games like Z1 I don't want to bother waiting on for more improvement because they don't really seem worth the wait. But a game in very early stages that I do think I'm eager to see updated is Retail Royale. This Battle Royale game takes place in a department store with mannequins duking it out. This one felt very fresh, not just in concept, but with how it was more based on melee combat than ranged combat with guns. The one part of gameplay is being able to pick up and throw most objects, which is fun. I played a bit against some bots and was able to spectate some games that real players were doing, and had a pretty good time despite the current limitations in the gameplay. It's far from done, but I think it's a game that you should keep an eye on because it seems like it could be super great once it's complete. You can't tell me that mannequins recycling tools into other weapons to fight each other to the death in a fake IKEA store doesn't sound absolutely wonderful. So let's wish Darksdev the best with the development. Next, I'll talk about a Battle Royale that was recently on the front page of Steam. Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodhunt. This takes place in the world of the series of Vampire the Masquerade games, but thankfully you don't need to know anything about those before trying out this free game. You play as a vampire with various different subspecies to choose from with different abilities. The funnest part about this game is the extra mobility you have. The vampires can leap high and scale any walls, but there are normal humans around that you have to hide your abilities from, or they'll give away your position to other vampire players. But you can also drink their blood to replenish your health. One downfall with this game is that the time between matches felt very long, Maybe I was just in an impatient mood, but it could be that a lot of people aren't playing right now, or it's struggling to matchmake with players of your same skill level. I think that definitely could be improved in the future, as I was able to see that my opponents were always off doing things I had no idea how to do from just the tutorial, so I was always very outmatched. Always the victim, never the killer. But it was still fun to play regardless of that. I liked the location, the dark, rainy atmosphere, and again, the mobility, being able to leap and slide and really feel like you're a supernatural being. That's awesome. I'll definitely be checking out the game in the future after it gets updated a bit more, but I think that you could have a great time in its current state as well, if this sounds interesting to you. One game in early access that you would really want to wait before spending a lot of time on is Element Battle Royale. This one kind of feels like the Hunger Games in that you all start very close to each other in a circle around some loot. Unfortunately, starting that close means that it's just a race to whoever can open a box and figure out the inconvenient inventory system fastest, immediately shooting everyone else to win. Yes, rounds can be over in less than a minute in Element, and I don't think that was intentional considering there's far more map to spend your time in. I tried a few rounds where I immediately ran away from the starting point, but that didn't help lengthen things. They still ended very fast. I do think this game has some potential, but it's probably not what you're looking for in a Battle Royale right now. So maybe keep an eye on it. But at the moment, there are far more promising games in this list. One that I really liked but is far from your typical Battle Royale game was Scavengers. In this game, you play as a team of 3, or, well, usually less than 3 since there aren't many people playing this game at the moment, but you must survive the frozen wilderness together, fighting off enemy players and other creatures to be the team who escapes with the most data points. I really liked that this game was unique with having AI enemies too, alongside different mechanics like staying warm from the snow and trying to earn the most points. So your enemy wasn't just other real people, but also the elements, and it had a great sense of survival with minimal amounts of ammo to collect and a cruel landscape filled with monsters. The second round I played only had 2 players, me and another person on my team, but even without other people to compete against, I think the game is super fun. So yeah, it's not your typical Battle Royale, and some people won't like that, but I really think this game is worth a try, and I personally can't wait to see where it goes from here. That was a very original game, I think, in terms of Battle Royales, so how about a total knockoff next? Introducing Creative Destruction, a game that I think was definitely trying to copy Fortnite. So I guess if you wish Fortnite was on Steam, this game might be right for you. You drop from a bus onto the map, collect materials, and build structures. Creative Destruction does have some unique elements that set it apart, but really, it mostly plays like Fortnite, except with constant ads for loot boxes being thrown at your face. Now, it's definitely not as smooth and professional, you could say, as Fortnite, but it still works decently as a Battle Royale game. The gameplay feels a little janky at times, but it actually feels better than some of the other games I've tried here. There are different abilities to explore, but you can also ignore them and still be fine if you just want a very casual gaming experience. And one thing that I really like in Creative Destruction that I almost wish Fortnite would do is that as you're in the bus to the island, there are a variety of different bus drivers who will speak and tell you about different locations you can land at. It's a fun extra detail. The same developer, NetEase Games, also made another Battle Royale game called Cyber Hunter. Why did they need 2 very similar games? I have no idea. Cyber Hunter does have some differences, like non-Battle Royale modes and a less cartoony style overall. It also gives players the ability to climb walls, which should have been interesting if it had ever seemed like something I would like to use during the game, which I did not. You can tell that both of the games are very focused on the player's fashion and appearance, so I think they're more interested in finding new ways for you to spend money on those things than improving the actual gameplay, because the menus are just super busy and filled with tons of different shops and ads, so that I barely even knew how to find what I was looking for. So while they're adding a ton of new costumes, important things like collecting loot in the game still feel hard to navigate. I do think these games are both pretty good for beginner players though. You can easily rack up quite a few kills, but it's exactly like those mobile games filled with ads to buy in-game currency that everybody hates. So they're both like Fortnite Annoying Edition, but they do have decent gameplay if you just want to try something new for a bit. Another game that feels similar to Fortnite but really shakes things up even more is Realm Royale. It's a fantasy-style game where you don't only have guns with unlimited ammo, but also a variety of magic spells. And there are a lot of different types, which means that there are countless different strategies you could come up with each round. Especially since there are also different player classes with their own unique abilities as well. Once you're defeated, you turn into a chicken with the chance to return to the game if you aren't killed in your chicken form. So it's cool that you get a second chance even in single player modes. I did play with a random squad once though, something that works well considering this is one of the games I tried that does actually have a decent amount of active players. There were about 90 in each match I played. This game is still in the alpha stages of development with a few glitches here and there, but it feels very polished already surprisingly, so I definitely recommend you give it a try if the concept sounds fun to you. A game I had definitely heard of before I started researching for this video was, well, how am I supposed to say this name? F.O.A.D. CRSED F.O.A.D. People call it Cuisine Royale, which I think is the original name of the game. Don't know why they changed it, since this new one sounds more like crust food. Not the most pleasant thing I've heard. Since I knew this was one of the more popular free battle royales, I was expecting it to feel pretty good and be decently enjoyable. And I'm sure it is for a lot of people, and that's great, but I personally did not enjoy Cuisine Royale. Immediately, because I didn't like that it first wanted me to watch YouTube videos instead of explaining things in the game itself. I skipped the videos and did okay in the game anyway, since the game is pretty straightforward in terms of the general gameplay. Gathering guns and armor, eating food for stamina or health or whatever. I was able to fend for myself with my average gamer smarts, so I guess the lack of normal tutorials can be forgiven. I found more issues in the gameplay itself. Mostly one big issue. The game is in third-person perspective most of the time, but when you start aiming your gun, it switches to first-person. I understand why a game might want to do that. Using iron sights is more authentic and more of a challenge, but it's a very jarring switch that left me disoriented. Here, the middle of my view looks clear of the tree, but when I raise my gun, it's not, which confused me and made it hard to aim as fast as might be necessary to defend myself. So don't mix perspectives, please. I'm going to get motion sickness. But the game looks really good, and it runs well. Like others, it has its own unique characters with abilities to make the game more fun, and at least it has a decent amount of players per match. I think this is the kind of game I theoretically could really learn to enjoy, but I really can't get over the switch in perspective. It ruins the game for me. But if it wouldn't for you, try it out. You might enjoy it a lot. Unless it makes your starting position the middle of a hedge maze. What the heck, crust food? I'm trying to find guns, not solve a maze. Okay, that was a more popular battle royale that I didn't have a great time with. So how about one that I did? It's a huge name in gaming right now, Apex Legends. Apex Legends just feels fun. From the unique characters that speak throughout each match to their individual abilities. You always play as a team of 3, so there's a nice sense of camaraderie that made up for all the times I died. So I did have a good time in Apex Legends, following my team around, pretending I know what I'm doing when I totally don't. But I'm not without my complaints. First of all, the tutorial definitely doesn't explain as much as I had hoped it would, because I entered my first match wondering what half of the objects I found were even for. Additionally, it felt like there were way too many different types of ammo to be found. Maybe I was just overwhelmed, so it felt like there were more types than there really are. But I had no idea what bullets went with what gun and why I couldn't find what I needed. However, despite all that, I did have fun just running along with my squad mates, and I think it's the kind of game that would be very forgiving towards beginners if it just explained a bit more. So if you've never tried it before and want to get into Apex, prepare to do a bit of research online so you can actually know what you're doing. I find it a little bit intimidating, but I think I might actually come back to it casually in the future. It's definitely popular for good reason, I'll say that. Finally, we've reached the 15th Battle Royale game I tried this week. Ring of Elysium. Ring of Elysium is like your typical Battle Royale game, on an island with different towns and plenty of guns to find, but it adds a fun, unique twist. More than one person can win. At the end, a helicopter with 4 seats arrives, and you want to be one of the people who escapes on it before a volcano explodes. I think that's what's going on anyway, but who cares about plot in these games? How about the gameplay? Though parts of this game, like the looting mechanics, were admittedly a bit confusing at first, I soon got the hang of it and actually really enjoyed playing this game. One cool thing is the weapon parts you can find, like better scopes for your guns, which you can actually toggle on and off if you find you don't actually like them. That made experimenting with different things feel a lot safer, since you couldn't accidentally back yourself into a corner you didn't like. I don't think the game is perfect. I wish swimming speeds were faster, boats were going to be hard to find, and it didn't seem to save my win on my statistics screen, which was disappointing for bragging rights. Another downside is that this, alongside Apex Legends, take up the most hard drive space out of the games in this list, so they're not going to be a convenient option for every player out there. I would definitely try this one again though. I've seen some people compare it to PUBG, so if you want a free version of that game, this might work for you. I've never played PUBG, so don't ask me if it's true. Anyway, those are 15 of Steam's free Battle Royale games. I think there are a few good choices in there depending on what you're looking for in a game. Do you want a cartoony atmosphere and magic? Go with Realm Royale. Do you want a realistic gun experience? Go with Cuisine Royale. Need something straightforward? Go with Ring of Elysium. Vampire Bloodhunt is great for vampire fans, and Apex Legends is probably the most polished and well supported with a large fan base. My personal favorite was probably Scavengers, since it works well even without a lot of other players, and it's something totally different if you need something fresh. There's a wide variety of these games to appeal to a lot of different types of gamers, so I hope that if you're a PC player looking for some free Battle Royale games to try, I helped introduce you to some new ideas today. And maybe some you should avoid like the plague, and some you should check back on in a couple of months or so for more updates. If you've played any of these games I talked about, I'd love to know what you thought about them. You can comment below or message me on Twitter. Link is in the description. And thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. You are so great. If you found this informative or entertaining, I would appreciate you liking the video or even subscribing. But most of all, I hope you try out whichever of these games you thought sounded best and have a great time with it. Have a groovy day, my friends. I'll see you in the next video.